A new report from LinkedIn says that over half of job seekers have been looking for a job for more than 6 months. And this is something that doesn't surprise me, but let's go over the survey, let's go over the results, and a couple of comments of people who saw this post on LinkedIn and kind of their thoughts and their feelings around what's really going on right now. And the fact that the job market is not very good, but it also seems to be very saturated, especially for people trying to find remote jobs or people trying to find work in certain areas. But let's dive into this survey. The survey says, which professions are seeing shorter job searches? And it says more than half of US job seekers have been on the hunt for 6 months or longer. But workers in these roles are more likely to have been searching for less than half of that time. So in these roles that we're about to go over, it is going to cut the amount of time that it's going to take you to find a new job, as opposed to the average worker who has been looking for 6 months or longer. And the list says, functions most likely to have been job searching for 3 months or less. So cutting that in half. Number 1, sales. Number 2, program and project management. Number 3, research. Number 4, healthcare services. Number 5, human resources. And the source is LinkedIn Market Research. And it says 15,225 professionals in the US were surveyed from December 14th, 2024 to March 21st, 2025. Now, number 1 makes a lot of sense because if you're a good salesperson, you should always be able to find a sales job. A lot of the times, sales jobs are 100% commission, so there's really no pressure and no burden on an employer to give you a shot. If you make sales, great. They're going to pay you a commission. Hopefully it's fair, and that's it. And if you're not good at sales, they're not going to keep you around that long. So very little probably barrier to entry if you do have at least a little bit of experience in sales. And yeah, I mean, you're fighting for your life every single day because you may or may not have any sort of base to fall back on. If you don't make any sales, you might not eat that day or might not build up a good enough paycheck to make it worth your time. So that's fine. It makes sense that sales jobs will be less difficult to get than some of these other jobs out here. Next is program and project management. Now, from my experience, I know that that is not the case. Project management is very hard to get. And let's just say that developers and engineers and people of that nature, they don't really care too much if project managers are gone, because most project managers that they probably have dealt with are, not very nice. And a lot of developers feel like they can just do everything themselves. They can share their updates with management. They can keep themselves on track. And they don't think that they need project managers at all. And another thing is, if you're looking at project management jobs, a lot of these roles are not necessarily things that you might have seen before, where you could be a project manager just in charge of a project for a corporation. Maybe there's a new initiative, a new rollout, something that they wanted to do. Most of these jobs that are being posted right now are business to business project managers. And if you do have experience in it, once again, it's gonna take some sales skills and some sales experience. It might be easier to find a modern day project manager, although I don't think you're easily going to find a project manager within an organization. It's going to be business to business. It's going to be someone who works hand in hand with the account managers. It's going to be someone who can make presentations, gather information as far as what potential clients are looking for. And then once everyone comes to an agreement, making sure that the client has what they're looking for. So still sales, still have to be outgoing, still have to have certain techniques and certain experience that is something that you might not have had to have even 5 years ago. And in program management, I don't think that's an easy job to get right now. I don't know anyone who is just saying it's so easy to get a program manager job. I've seen people on LinkedIn that I know who are seasoned, very talented program managers, and they're struggling a lot right now. So I don't know about that one. And I don't know how you can loop those two together, especially when the modern day requirements for project manager is so different than it used to be. Next is research, which I don't really know anything about. I don't have any experience in that, but it could be, it could not be. Let me know in the comments if you have any history in research, or if you know people who have done research and maybe maybe you can get a research job in 3 months or less. Next is healthcare services, which is basically a wide range of activities aimed at diagnosing, preventing, and treating diseases, as well as assessing and caring for the health of individuals. So basically, if you're a doctor or a nurse, you might be able to find a job in 3 months or less. I mean, no matter what's going on in the world, someone who is a bedside nurse is usually going to be able to find work. Now, ancillary roles within healthcare, maybe you're doing data entry, maybe medical records, maybe billing. Those you don't really have as much of job security. It might not be as easy, but if you're there diagnosing clients, if you're a surgeon, if you are a bedside nurse, it makes sense to me that you could find a job in 3 months or less. Next is human resources, and I don't see how this is the case. For the first time in my career, I'm really seeing people in HR who are struggling, who have I know it's new, I guess, but the open to work banner. But I don't remember seeing this high a percentage of people in human resources having this kind of struggle and this kind of fight to find a brand new job. So I don't think that people in human resources are finding jobs in 3 months or less. I don't think that is true. So I don't really know about this list aside from maybe sales or healthcare services. Those kind of make sense to me, but other than that, I don't really know. But let's see what else LinkedIn has to say and what other information they have to give around this survey. They say, which professions can hope for shorter job searches right now? LinkedIn's latest workforce confidence survey shows more than half of US job seekers have been out on the hunt for 6 months or longer. But workers in certain roles say that they've been searching for more than half that time. Sales professionals looking for a new job are most likely to say they have been searching for 3 months or less, followed by program and project managers and researchers. Healthcare services and human resource professionals were also more likely than average to say that they haven't been on the hunt for long. And back to the project managers, maybe they don't mean IT, maybe they mean construction project managers. I guess that makes sense because everywhere you look in the States, there's construction, there's building, things are happening, even though people can't afford the houses that exist. And even though all new housing will basically go to investment companies, they still keep building so that the rich can get richer. But maybe that's what they mean by project managers, because IT project managers certainly aren't finding new jobs within 3 months. The article goes on to say that, meanwhile, some professions seem to be facing much longer job hunts. 2/3 of active job searchers employed in marketing said that they've been searching for over 6 months now, compared to the US average of 54%. Administrative services professionals, consultants, lawyers, educators, and media and communication workers were also more likely than average to say their search has taken over half a year. Do these findings line up with what you're seeing in your field? What lessons from your profession have helped you most in setting up your next career move? And then here's the sources who did the survey and wrote up the little write-up area. Okay, there's some things here. So let's see. It says that people in marketing have been searching for over 6 months, which makes sense to something I'm saying all the time. These companies aren't trying to get better. These companies aren't growing because they're not hiring. All these companies, or most of these bigger companies that you would think would have the resources to do hiring, to bring on new staff, are just basically saying, oh no, don't worry about it. It's we're going to have job postings, but it's not actually going to lead to any hiring. And they're also not worrying about getting in new customers. Like, it just seems like the majority of companies in the States are just keeping the lights on, keeping everything on idle. They're not trying to hire too many people. They're not trying to spend too much in marketing or advertising, except for maybe the cream of the crop who can spend millions of dollars on Super Bowl ads. But for the average companies out there, they're not spending money on marketing. So I guess that makes sense. You would think that there would be some lawyers who would be able to land jobs 3 months or less. Educators, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough profession anyways, where you don't get paid exactly what you should be getting paid for the hardships of raising people's kids. But I guess they're struggling too as well. Let's go to the comments where Philip says, check this for fresh out of high school students who are trying to get a job to fund their college. Everything is selected by AI nowadays. You can't even show up at a warehouse and ask for HR to ask for a warehouse worker job. How are these young ones finding a job? Actual companies don't like to hire, so they use temp agencies to fill demands. but these agencies don't even know what they're doing themselves. It is quite interesting to me that people who are just looking for basic warehouse jobs these days have to apply online. Like, if I'm just all out of other options and all I can do is physically lift things and carry things, move them around. Now, I'm not talking about working as a forklift operator where I know you'd have to have some kind of forklift certification or some training. I'm just talking about like unboxing things at a warehouse, putting things together. I mean, there are certain things where you shouldn't need a detailed resume, and you still can't, apparently, according to Philip, you can't just show up and submit your application to someone. You have to apply online, which I see plenty of openings for general warehouse workers. But yeah, they're online. They have to submit a resume. I don't even know what a resume looks like for someone going from IT who can't find a job in their chosen field or marketing to go work at a warehouse. And then another thing is temp agencies. That is a lot of people's suggestion. Oh, just go work at temp agencies. You can work 3 months, 6 months, at least it's something. Well, these temp agencies aren't hiring anyways. So you can apply to a job on LinkedIn that's only 3 months. You would think, hey, it's 3 months, it's 6 months. You're covering someone's maternity leave. You're covering someone's, I don't know, sabbatical or whatever. And you would think you'd want to get someone right away. And they go through and they list things, they list these positions, and then they repost them. These companies are not in a hurry, even when there's a 3-month contract on the line where they don't have to offer you benefits or anything like that as far as the actual company that you work with. So there should be very little risk on hiring someone who could probably do the job for 3 months. And even those companies aren't hiring anybody. And a lot of staffing agencies in general, I could talk about this in a future episode if you want, but I basically got the idea to call up a bunch of agencies in my home state to just see what they have available, what's going on. And it was quite surprising and a little bit disheartening, some of the answers that I got when I was going around calling, and just some of the results of just picking up the phone, trying to call even just staffing agencies who would make more money the more people they staff. You know, if I have a strong resume and strong experience, I think that I could be staffed relatively easily if I could just get my resume past an ATS in the hands, or at least on the desk of a hiring manager, but that doesn't even work these days. Next, Victoria says, I was laid off in August and have been on 6+ month job search since then. The ghosting after interviews is disheartening, and for the first time, ghosting after meeting them in real life and having sent them a thank you note. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that you got to send a thank you note. I don't know. I don't feel like that's going to make or break. That's something that I would always do, or I'd leave it with the receptionist on the way out or something. But nowadays, it just seems like all emails from third-party external people just go right to spam. I mean, you could send a thank you email after your interview and still get ghosted. Not even like, hey, thanks, we'll let you know, whatever. Like, it just seems like the least amount of contact that these companies and these hiring managers can have with people, that's the best case scenario for them. They don't really care. And to be ghosted after any kind of interview is just really rude. I mean, if someone takes the time to drive out to you or fly out to you if it's another city, since who knows, you can't necessarily always get a job relatively close to you. You might have to fly out to a different city or a different state, and then just to be ghosted, at least have the common decency to tell people, hey, this didn't work out, we didn't find what we're looking for, blah, 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 blah. But just to ghost someone, especially after an in-person interview, is ridiculous. And then Willie says, realistically, it takes 8 months to find a new job. And then someone else says, took me 2 years. So I think 6 months is the short end. If you're lucky, if everything falls the right way, you might only be unemployed after a layoff for 6 months, but it could easily be 8 months, 10 months, a year, 2 years. I mean, it's really rough out there, and 6 months seems like a long time, and that is a lot of an emergency fund to have saved up when everything is so expensive, like healthcare and rent and eggs. But unfortunately, that's the reality of what we're going through. People have been looking for 1 year, 2 years, and I don't know what you can do to really shorten that, besides maybe get into sales, I guess. And then we have Sarah, who says, finding a job in today's economic climate is more challenging than ever. With a saturated job market and rising living costs, people are scrambling just to stay afloat. One of the harshest realities is that many are willing, sometimes forced, to accept positions that offer half the pay for twice the work. This desperation skews the playing field, making it harder for others to compete, especially those who are holding out for fair compensation. The ripple effect is staggering. Overqualified individuals are either being passed over because employers fear they'll leave as soon as something better comes along, or they're forced to settle for roles far beneath their skill level. And while resumes flood in, companies have the luxury of picking from an enormous pool, often without offering growth or stability in return. In this environment, job seekers face not only financial strain, but also emotional exhaustion. Constant rejection, ghosting from employers, and the pressure to accept less just to survive create a cycle that's tough to break. For many, it's not about finding a job, it's about finding any job that pays enough to live, while still holding on to a sense of dignity and purpose. And I think that is summed up very well. But let me know what you think. And how long have you been looking for a job? Has it been 6 months, a year, 2 years? Do you think that it's realistic that even salespeople are finding jobs in 3 months or less? And what kind of things are you doing? And what kind of out of the box kind of tactics are you trying to employ to be able to find a new job in this culture? To me, it doesn't seem like 6 months is realistic. I think that it's been a lot longer for many people, but you never know how many people they survey or in which groups they survey or which state. So it's still something interesting to talk about, and I wanted to share that data with you today. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Talk to you later.